let's talk about the fear of flying. So turns out, according at least to Google, that the fear of flying is the number one fear that people search online. And one may wonder why. What's so special about the fear of flying? Well, I think the reason is mainly mainstream media. We see on TV those planes crashing in the middle of the ocean or whatever, and all those dead bodies, and it's pretty gruesome and pretty gory, and that's probably the reason why many people fear flying. Well, how can we help them? How can we solve that problem? How can we remove the fear, this deeply rooted fear, from their hearts? Well, we have the three techniques, right? Let's talk about technique number one, intellectualizing it. So in order to help you out, I actually put some statistics in this course. You can check it out in the next, after this video. And there's all kinds of statistics, and if you really look into it, you will see that flying is probably the safest way to go from A to B. Car accidents are much more apparent in our world than flying accidents. Alright, and also I think train accidents and boat accidents, it turns out that flying is probably the safest way to go between places. So that's intellectualizing it, showing the person the numbers, talking about it. And whatever helps, if he needs to learn a little bit about planes, if he needs to learn a little bit about flying, what a pilot actually does, what's the responsibility of the pilot, etc., etc. What guidelines, what type of people are pilots, what training pilots go through, whatever the case, whatever is necessary for this particular person, you need to figure it out. You talk to the person and you try to understand and you ask them, if you knew the exact statistics, do you think it would help? Or you can just try to tell him the statistics, to check it out online yourself and tell him about it, and maybe it would help. Alright, so that's basically intellectualizing it. And usually, in those cases, intellectualizing it doesn't help alone. It usually helps to have other techniques, because many people know that flying is pretty safe, and it really is, but still, when they go on that plane, they are completely frozen with fear. So that's why we have other techniques. Let's talk about our second technique, gradually and slowly confronting the fear, right? So I would advise, if you have a friend that really is afraid of flying, you should gradually deal with it. Maybe go to a terminal and just walk around the terminal. Watch the planes fly up and down, and through the windows of the terminal. Or maybe even before that, just watch go near a terminal. If he feels that going into a terminal is too scary for him, just, earlier you can just go and park the car quite close to an airport and watch the planes fly above. Something like that, gradually, slowly, as necessary for this particular person. It is a very personal thing. Some people feel completely fine going to the terminal and there is no fear whatsoever, but when they sit on that seat, even before the plane taxis to the runway, even before that, they are completely frozen. And some other people, they are completely fine when they are seated, but when the engines begin to roar right on that runway, they are completely frozen with fear. So, you get it. It's very personal, and they just need to do it slowly and gradually. And the thing about flying is that it's very hard to do it gradually, because you can't just sit in the chair and not fly. You pay a lot of money for a plane ticket, so you can't just sit there, go to the runway, and that's it, and go home. There's a little bit of a technical issue here, right? The way to deal with it is use our imagination. You can use their imagination and tell your friend, guide him, and tell him, just imagine you are in the terminal, and be very specific about which terminal and everything, what smell he smells, what does he see. Ask him, help him, guide him to have this imaginary situation that is so vivid that his brain is confused and thinks it's reality. The brain doesn't even know it's not real because you describe it in such a vivid way. Alright, use your imagination and his in order to help him out. And tell him, alright, now we are taxi into the runway, and if you see that he begins to have this anxiety, and I don't know, he begins to shake a little bit, and his palms begins to sweat, and he begins to look really, really terrified, that's the time to do what? To use our anxiety techniques, right? Breathing, or associating something positive. You know what? Maybe fly with someone, with a loved one, someone, that could hold his hand and help him out, that sort of thing. Just practice the techniques and slowly and gradually help him through the entire process, at least in his imagination, and then in real life. And in real life, be there for him, hold his hand, and tell him it will be okay. And he would associate you with flying because you've been practicing with him and you've been talking about it for so long. So by the time he actually goes and flies with you on a plane, he already associates flying on a plane with you, and you are hopefully a source of positivity in his life. Alright, so that's the second technique, the technique of slowly and gradually confronting the fear. And it seems that I already talked a little bit about technique number 3, which is associating the fear with something positive. So like I just said, you can associate it either with you, that you are like a person of positivity in life, or maybe, I don't know, if it's a small kid, maybe you can give her a stuffed airplane or whatever, a toy. Think about it, use your own imagination, whatever you think would be helpful. Whatever the case, the age, the gender, whatever, I don't know the person, but you know the person. And if you need to help someone to remove his fears or her fears, then you will find the specific path. I'm just giving you the guidelines, and you will figure it out. Just remember, when you notice those anxiety properties, characteristics show up, deal with them with breathing. Alright? That was the fear of flying.